This author listed my dear friend's dear son among the friends that cannot sup with us in the poem In Memory of Major Robert Gregory. This author asked, how can we know the dancer from the dance? At the end of his poem, Among Schoolchildren. This author wrote, an aged man is but a paltry thing, in a poem about a holy city that is no country for old men. This author described 20 centuries of stony sleep that were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle in a poem that asks, what rough beast slouches towards Bethlehem to be born? For 10 points, name this Irish poet of Sailing to Byzantium and The Second Coming. And the answer is William Butler Yeats. In this work, a character formerly known as Golden Cicada is repeatedly attacked because his flesh is said to have restorative properties. A character in this work urinates on a bronze pillar before discovering that it is actually a finger. An abridged translation of this work by Arthur Waley refers to two of its characters as Sandy and Pigsy. A character in this work is imprisoned under Mount Wuhong for 500 years after he is unable to escape the Buddha's palm. That character accompanies a monk named Xuanzang on a quest to obtain Buddhist holy texts. For 10 points, name this classic Chinese novel in which the Monkey King's son Wukong travels to India. And the answer is Journey to the West. This author wrote, a beautiful and silent sphinx has watched me in a poem dedicated to Marcel Schwab. A character in a play by this author claims that losing both parents looks like carelessness. In a play by this author, Lord Darlington is suspected of having an affair with Mrs. Erlynne, who turns out to be the title character's mother. In a play by this author, a character who loves cucumber sandwiches claims to be bun-burying when he wants to avoid social interactions. In that play, Algernon Moncrief and Jack Worthing take on the same alias. For 10 points, name this gay Irish playwright of Lady Windermere's Fan and The Importance of Being Earnest. And the answer is Oscar Wilde. This author described the close bosom friend of the maturing son in a poem addressed to a season of mists and mellow fruitfulness. A later poet honored this author in a poem in which the author's soul, like a star, beacons from the abode where the eternal are. This author of To Autumn was the dedicatee of an elegy by Percy Shelley called Adonais. This author observed that heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter, in a poem addressed to a foster child of silence in slow time. That poem declares that beauty is truth, truth, beauty. For 10 points, name this British romantic poet of Ode on a Grecian Urn. And the answer is John Keats. Soldiers find the body of a farmer-turned-rebel general still aiming his gun at the end of a novel from this country. A recipe from this country begins each section of a novel in which Tita expresses her emotions through cooking. A character lies to Teresa and Catalina about the location of his will in a novel from this setting of The Underdogs and Like Water for Chocolate. Thoughts on the deathbed of a business tycoon from this country are described in The Death of Artemio Cruz. Another novel describes the disappearance of Ambrose Bierce during this country's revolution. For 10 points, name this home country of Mariano Azuela, Laurel Esquivel, and Carlos Fuentes. And the answer is Mexico. This play's stage directions describe ambient music from a nearby club as a blue piano. A character in this play attempts to hide her age by blocking out the light from a paper lantern. That character dances to the Varsoviana after confronting her husband Alan Gray about his homosexual affair. In this play, a game of poker is interrupted when Mitch's friend throws a radio out of a window. This play ends after a character admits that she has always depended on the kindness of strangers as she is taken to a mental hospital. For 10 points, name this play about Blanche's stay in Stella and Stanley Kowalski's home, written by Tennessee Williams. And the answer is A Streetcar Named Desire. In a novel by this author, a man finds a strong and handsome name in the Bible, prompting him to name his daughter Pilate. In another novel by this author, a group of women watch an apparition disappear after Mr. Bodwin is attacked with an ice pick. A bag of stolen gold eventually leads to a battle between Guitar and Milkman Dead in a novel by this author, who also wrote a novel in which a ghost haunts 124 Bluestone Road years after Setha kills her infant daughter to save her from slavery. For 10 points, name this recently deceased African-American author of Song of Solomon, The Bluest Eye, and Beloved. And the answer is Toni Morrison. In one novel by this author, a character wishes to visit the River of the Arrow so he can bathe in it and become enlightened. In a poem by this author, the phrases limpin' lump o' brick dust and squidgy-nosed old idol describe the tidal water bearer, who is told, "You're a better man than I am." This author wrote a novel in which Hurry Babu works alongside the title Irish orphan as British spies in The Great Game. In a collection by this author, the snakes Nog and Nagaina are killed by the mongoose Rikki-Tikki-Tavi. For 10 points, name this imperialist British author of Kim and Gunga Din who wrote about Mowgli in the Jungle Book. And the answer is Rudyard Kipling. A work in this language describes the tale of a black fish on a woman before reassuring the reader that even Homer makes mistakes on occasion. Another poem in this language describes a monument more lasting than bronze, which will be higher than the pyramids. An epic in this language begins, "I sing of arms and the man," and follows a character who, upon recognizing the belt of Pallas, decides to kill Turnus. That epic, in this language, follows a hero who abandons Dido after escaping the sack of Troy. For 10 points, name this language used by Horace, Virgil, and other ancient Romans. And the answer is Latin. This character briefly rolls his great green eyes over the fat meadowlands belonging to the family of a girl he gives singing lessons to. This character whistles while passing a lightning-struck tree where Major Andre was hung years earlier. This character rides off on his horse Gunpowder after he sees an apparition of a galloping Hessian on a bridge. This teacher angers Brom Bones when he develops a crush on Katrina Van Tassel. For 10 points, name this character who is chased out of Sleepy Hollow by the Headless Horseman in a short story by Washington Irving. And the answer is Ichabod Crane.